Hi, my name is Aaron Rubin, partner and wealth advisor at Werber Rubin Papier Wealth. I often work with people who are paying close attention to their money, but they're not always sure what deserves their attention. Headlines, market moves, tax changes, and economic forecasts all compete for focus, and it can be hard to tell what matters and what's just noise. It's not a discipline problem. It's just too much information. Most people have been taught to think about finances reactively. Something changes in the market, something shows up in the news, or a friend brings up an idea, and suddenly it feels like you need to make a decision or opportunity goes away. Over time, that creates a sense of uncertainty, even for people who are doing well financially. What planning does is create context for those moments. Instead of asking, what should I do right now? Planning helps you ask, does this change anything meaningful about my long-term picture? In many cases, the answer is no. And that realization alone can help people feel more grounded in decisions. A big example of this is how people think about market risk. One of the most common concerns we hear is some version of, what if the market goes down and doesn't come back? That fear is understandable, but it's often not the risk people need to focus on. Markets move in cycles. What tends to matter more over time is how you make decisions during those cycles. What can often be harmful over time is reacting emotionally or missing opportunities to plan around taxes. That's why planning looks beyond short-term performance. It focuses on sustainability, coordination, and how different decisions interact over time. And there's another risk that doesn't get enough airtime: purchasing power. Even in normal inflation environments, your dollar quietly loses value over time. So if your plan isn't designed to grow and adapt, you're falling behind without realizing it. That's why our conversations often focus less on headlines and more on strategy. For example, a lot of people were taught simple rules growing up. Stocks are risky, bonds are safe. Those narratives can create fear-based decisions even for successful investors. That's why part of our job is to replace assumptions with clarity. We want concerns to be grounded in facts, not urban legends. Not what someone said at the water cooler, not what your friend swears is about to happen, but a plan that's built on your goals, your cash flow needs, and real trade-offs. That brings me to something else that matters a lot when you're choosing an advisor: fiduciary responsibility. Fiduciary means advice must be in your best interest, not just acceptable, not just technically fine, but the legal standard is to act in the client's best interest. A non-fiduciary model can be very different. In some places, the standard is suitability, meaning as long as something is suitable, it can still be recommended, even if it's not the best option. Compensation structures and incentives can shape how advice is delivered. This is why people can end up frustrated later. They think they hired an advisor. What they experienced was a product pitch, limited planning, and unclear costs. And often they don't realize it until they start asking basic questions and don't get clear answers. We've seen a common pattern. Someone chooses an advisor based on one factor, usually convenience. I want someone local, or my friend uses this person. And later they realize they're in strategies that don't fully understand, with limited planning support and unexpected layers of cost. That doesn't mean every advisor is bad. It means the decision framework matters. A better checklist looks like this. Do they lead with education? Do they answer questions clearly? Do they coordinate planning, taxes, and investments, or just talk about investments? Do they follow up, follow through, and treat your questions with respect? Now let's talk about delaying planning, because the risk isn't just financial. The risk is lost time and missed opportunities. You don't know what you don't know, and you can't course correct what you haven't measured. And it's hard to understand future taxes, Social Security decisions, healthcare costs, and retirement spending without real planning tools. There's an old line I love because it's painfully true. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Planning is the same way. When you start earlier, you get flexibility. You can test scenarios. You can adjust gradually. You can fix blind spots before they become emergencies. When you start later, you can still make progress, but the decisions often get tighter, more stressful. So if you're watching this and thinking, I should probably get serious about this, that's the point. Not to scare you, but to help you move from reaction to structure, from noise to clarity, from guessing to planning. If you'd like to explore whether our approach fits what you're looking for, we're happy to start with a conversation. And if we're not the right fit, we'll tell you that too. Thanks for watching.